So hi, good morning. Audible? No, no. Asking on that side because once it starts, so they will say कि sir audible नहीं है. So what we had last class? Chalcolithic we have completed. Chalo. So today we are going to start with the advent of Aryans and so as the beginning of the Vedic age. So just give me a minute. So advent of Aryans and then beginning of the Vedic age. So you can just mention the title Advent of Aryans and then let's have a discussion about it. So when it comes to Advent of Aryans, I think last class also we discussed that who were Aryans. Did we discuss that why they were referred as Aryans? Yes, no. Huh. Just listen. So basically, Aryan this term does not denote a single community. Okay? Aryans were many different tribes from the Central Asia. Central Asia is also referred as steppes grassland of the central part or steppes grassland of Russia also. That was the time when we are referring this age, or basically it's only before 1990s it was all Russia. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, these all places were Russia. So some of the old books they do mention southern Russia also. Then so they were different tribes. And when you go into that this different kind of thing, different kind of tribes, so if we look at the Central Asian nation, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, so these all nations, when when there was disintegration of USSR, then so these nations, all of them have Muslim majority population, but then despite having, they did not create a one country, but then 5 countries got created. That was on the basis of a different tribe. Okay? So each and every tribe was different in this area. Moreover, there was only one similarity in between these tribes is the language group similarity, not the language group similarity. All of them were speaking the languages of the same group. Then, and what was the similarity in this particular, in these languages was sound similarity, meaning familiarity with the sound. It's not about the meaning of the language, but it's about familiarity with the sound, or that's what we call phonemic similarity. And these group of languages were called as Aryan group of languages. So basically, Aryan term denotes the linguistic identity. It does not denote a racial identity. It's not a racial identity, first of all. In the modern times, when we see things related to the modern development, particularly in 1940s, when Hitler's rise was there. So Hitler was the one who started to proclaim that Aryan is a superior race. But then originally it indicated linguistic community. Then now what is the need of these people to arrive in India? So as you know, Central Asia and just Central Asia is just above the Pamir Knot, and Pamir Knot is what? That highest roof in the world. Then and when it is that it's placed higher, so cold season is very long. Then and cold season is very long, and then moreover their greatest wealth was basically cattle. And in cold season, what is happening that availability of the fodder is very limited. Then, so these people adopted a nomadic life. Then, that people in Central Asia adopted a nomadic life, and in nomadic life, they are moving from one place to another place, and they were always in search of the good pasture land. Then, so when we look at India part, so in India part there are many passes from the Central Asia part, or basically Afghanistan border le lo, ऊपर से Central Asia, and then just have a look that one side Himalaya, 3 ranges of Himalaya, above 3 ranges of Himalaya, Trans Himalaya, then at the top Pamir Knot, then on Pakistan side there are the mountains like Hindu Kush, then Suleiman, Kirtahar. So these all hill ranges, there is a discontinuity and there are passes. So it was easy for them to arrive in India. It was not a difficult thing. That passes were there. And once they arrived in India, so they found a good pasture land. Okay? So they found a very good pasture land, and that's how the interventions of the Aryans has started. Now, moreover, after their arrival, one of their first work was composition of the Vedas. Then, and the very first composition was Rigved. Then, so very first composition Rigved, and moreover, whatever information that we are going to write, they are majorly sourced from or traced from Rigved. So first we will talk about the geographical location at this point of time, and moreover in the Vedic text or the literature, what all things they have mentioned about the what all things they have mentioned about the Aryan society, Aryan polity, and then Aryan economy, and so as their socio-religious practices. So we'll start with the geographical location where we'll be talking about the rivers which they have mentioned in the Rig Veda, then an original name and the contemporary name. So write a paragraph, mention that around 1500 BC, several tribes from Central Asia, Central Asia started arriving in India, then these tribes on the linguistic basis, were referred as Aryans. On the linguistic basis were referred as Aryans. Then mention they were nomadic and pastoralist in nature. They were nomadic and pastoralist in nature. They were nomadic and pastoralist in nature. Then mention they were always in search of good pasture land. They were always in search of good pasture land. As cattles were their most important economic wealth. Cattles were their most important economic wealth. Just stop for a minute. So now listen. That when it comes to the further details related to how they were able to establish themselves in India. So first of all, that obviously when they are coming to a foreign land where already people have inhabited this area, so there would be a contest, there would be a fight then. And in this fight, Aryans were proving to be superior. So how they were proving to be superior? By two ways. So one thing which is said that they have brought a very good quality horses then. So as per the history, that as per that historical details, it is said that Aryans were the one who introduced the horses for the very first time in India. Then, so they came with the horses and also the horse-driven chariots. Then, so horse-driven chariots, and moreover, these particular things provided swiftness to their army. Then, so it provided swiftness to their army, and they were quite speedy in their endeavors. Then apart from it, another important thing which was leading to their success, they were using a very high quality bronze implements, bronze tools and implements. In fact, they had ornaments, or not ornaments, the implements of the defense also, like helmets and mail coats. So these were also used by them, and they were all made from bronze. So helmets, you all know. Bronze, what is mail coat? The one which you are wearing on this top body part, middle body part. In Hindi, what you call Raksha Kavach. Kavach. So they were wearing these all kind of stuff, and that's how they were able to defend themselves successfully and establish also. So you write just this part mention. In the initial phase, in the initial phase, Aryans were quite successful. In the initial phase, Aryans were quite successful against against indigenous community against indigenous community due to their use of due to their use of superior quality bronze tools and implements. Superior quality bronze tools and implements. Then mention superior quality bronze tools and implements like helmets and mail coats. Like helmets and mail coats. Mail coats. Then mention they came with horses. They came with horses and horse-driven chariots. They came with horses and horse-driven chariots, which provided swiftness to their army. Which provided swiftness to their army. Swiftness to their army. Paragraph change. Then mention. After establishing themselves in north and northwestern part of Indian subcontinent north and northwestern part of Indian subcontinent, Aryans started to compose Veda. Then mention Rigved was the first Ved composed by them. Rigved was the first Ved composed by them. Mention Rigved provides details about geography, people, polity, economy, society, and religious practices. Polity, economy, society, and religious practices during this period. Full stop. Then mention Rigved mentions following rivers during early Vedic age. So rivers I'm mentioning, okay, you can also write at the same time. So the most important, obviously, so Indus, and Indus was known as Sindhu. Then after Indus, the next river is Jhelum, and then is Chenab. So Jhelum is Vitasta. Then comes Chenab. Chenab was mentioned as Askini. Ravi. Ravi was mentioned as Parushni. Vyas is mentioned as Vipas. Then Satlaj. Satlaj was mentioned as Sutudri. And the last one, Saraswati. Also mentioned as Nadi, Tarada. It had many names. Mate Tama. So these were the rivers which were mentioned in Rigved. So the contemporary names, and on the other side you have the original names. Got it? So now listen. So on the basis of it, not on the basis of it, can you not predict, tell that which of the one was considered as the most important river out of these all? Indus can't be both. It can't be both. Indus is the most important river. Sindhu was the most important river. See, when generally keep in mind that when the question is asked most important, particularly in these areas, so it is from the economic perspective. So Indus economically was very useful for them, or basically in the daily life that Indus had a lot of usage. But then Saraswati was considered as the most sacred river. So there is a difference between sacred and most important. So important from the economic perspective, from the daily life perspective, but sacred was basically some sort of spiritual association or some sort of religious association. So it is said that majority of the Vedas were composed on the banks of the river Saraswati. That's why it was considered as most sacred. Okay? So now we are going to see this topic in the two divisions, early Vedic age and the later Vedic age. So early Vedic age, all of them will be having the same titles: polity, economy, society, and religious practices in both of them. Before moving into it, so in the early, that this part, geographical part, rivers we have mentioned, but Rigved also mentions some of the mountain ranges of this time. Okay? And what are those mountain ranges they have mentioned? So Himalayas. Then, so they have mentioned Himalayas as not with the same name, but in Rigved, the Himalaya is mentioned as Himavant and Jamvant Parvat. Okay? So Himvant, Jamvant, Parvat. Now, as you can see that this, have you heard this Jamvant anywhere in the mythology? In Ramayana. Okay? And what is the episode? Sanjeevani. I hope you understand. You have seen that movie. What is Sanjeevani? Okay? It's neither a plant, it's neither a. I, so, anyways, I'll not go into the discussion. So, Jamvant was the one where, as it is depicted in the Ramayana, that it had that particularly special plant, and Lord Hanuman has brought it. So, the name is mentioned in the Rigved. Okay? So, एक बार लिखो इसको that Rigved further mentions. Rigved further mentions the Himalayan mountain as Himvant and Jamvant Parvat. Himvant and Jamvant Parvat. Done? Then Himvant and Jamvant Parvat. Parvanta, I have written, that's wrong. Then write the title. Okay? So title is early Vedic age and then subtitle. So early Vedic age, approximately 1500 to 1000 BCE. And then let's start with the economy during early Vedic period. Okay, so economy during early Vedic age. So generally we do start with the polity, but here I'm starting with the economy. So now later on we'll be writing that Aryan community in particular area was headed by Rajan. Rajan used to be the most important person. We'll write later on in polity, but just understand. So what that how was the Aryan economy like that? So the most important wealth in this period was the cattle. Okay? As we mentioned in the beginning itself, that they were moving from one place to another place in search of the good pasture land. So cattle was the most important economic wealth of the early Aryans. And moreover, the importance of cattle has been highlighted in many ways. Then apart from the cattle, another important commodity at this point of time was agricultural commodity like barley and wheat. So barley was referred as yava, that was most important agricultural commodity, and the uh, second was the wheat, which is known as godhuma. But before writing this part, we need to understand that in what all ways cattle importance was highlighted. So in the Rigvedic text, large number of the terms are there which are defining the importance of the cattle and association with the cattle. So let's start with that those words which are there. So for example, that there are the words which were mentioned in Rigved like Gopa, Gopajanya, then so these all Gopa means cow, then Gopajanya, master of cow. We'll write later on, but just understand master of cow. Then there is a term Dohitri, there is a term Godhuma, there is a term Gavisthi, there is a term Godhuli. Then so all these terms that we are mentioning right now, they all are highlighting the importance of the cattle. And many such things were associated with the cattle only. So what we'll do that we'll list all the names and we'll write the meaning of all the names. So pehle 1 minute likho, just write. So mention that the most important economic wealth, the most important economic wealth of Aryans was cattle, was cattle. Then mention was cattle. The importance of cattle was highlighted in many ways. Importance of cattle was highlighted in many ways with many terms in Rigved. In Rigved. Then so now, which is as follow. So you mention these two words and rest of the terms I'm mentioning, you also write. Gopajanya, Gavisthi. So, and write the meanings also simultaneously. Search for cow. Then, Godhuma. Godhuma is wheat which emerges from cow dung. Which emerges from cow dung. Then Dohitri. Dohitri. Dohitri refers to daughter. So daughter was basically referred as Duhitri, but the meaning of the word Duhitri is milcher of the cow. Godhuli. Godhuli is measurement of time. It's dusk when cow returns to its stable. Then mention Aghanya, not to be killed. Not to be killed refers to cow. Then the next term, Goghan. One who eats cow meat. And Goghan also refers to, this is one part, most important guest. Done? So now there are these different terms which are highlighting the importance of the cow. So in the beginning, the normal words we have written Gop and Gopajanya. So Gop was cow. Then Gopajanya is the master of the cow. Then what we have written Gavisthi is the search for the cow. Godhuma is referring to wheat, but from where wheat emerges, cow dung, and then Duhitri. So daughter was called as Duhitri, and moreover, it also means milcher of the cow. It also indicates that the work of milching cow was assigned to the daughter. Then comes these all terms, Godhuli. So Godhuli, as you know, that it is also used in Hindi nowadays also. So it is dusk, but then it is measurement of the time that they used to say that before the evening, cows are the one they get to know that it's time to return home. Right? So they will stop grazing and they will start returning to their stable. Then Aghanya. So from the economic perspective, cow has many benefits. It must not be killed. Then it refers to Aghanya. This is the word from which there was in the later times there was one derived word in Sanskrit itself, Jaghanya, meaning that killing the cow is a not it's a kind of a sin. So this is what they assign. But then there is a contrary thing also that is mentioned, and don't take it in a political way. So any other way. So Goghan is mentioned. Goghan meaning that the most important guest who was served cow meat. The reason is that it was a rare phenomenon in the society, but it was happening. And moreover, that people who are going to welcome their most important guest, so they sacrifice their cow just to make him, assure him that my economic wealth is much important than that, not more important than you are the most important. So this was a rare phenomenon, but that was also happening. Okay, so the sacredness aspect of the cow was not there in the early Vedic age. It got associated with the later times, then so later times, but yes, economically it was considered as most important, and people refrained from slaughtering or killing the cow. Then So this is one part of it. Then that cattle was most important. Then एक और word लिखो, just not word, just write a line that the most important work, the most important work of chieftain of Aryan community was to protect the cattle. Chieftain of Aryan community was to protect the cattle. Then फिर से paragraph change करो. Apart from cattle, agricultural commodities like barley, referred as yav, and wheat referred as godhuma were also important. Referred as godhuma were also important. Then mention after it. So just wait for a minute. That as far as the metals are concerned, that what all metals the Aryans were knowing. So bronze already we have mentioned that they had the knowledge of the bronze, but apart from bronze, what else? They were also knowing the gold, and gold was referred as nishk. Then so gold was referred as nisk, and they had the knowledge and they were using the gold ornaments also. Then so this is there. Now I'll tell you something interesting related to it. Then the interesting part is the brand name Tanishq. You're getting it? So Tanishq is derived from the Tan and Nishk, meaning that the ornaments which are going into it. And so going into it. So that's the naming part. So Nisk was the oldest term which was used for the gold. Then when it comes to taxation. So taxation is basically that there was no formal system of taxation at this point of time. Voluntary contributions used to be there. So people voluntarily they contributed to the chieftain of the community, and these voluntary contributions were known as Bhag and Bali. So Bhag and Bali. So these were the voluntary contributions to the chieftain of the community, meaning that people are not forced to submit. अपने मन से लोग खुद contribute करते थे. ठीक है? So just mention that early Aryans had the knowledge of not knowledge, that early Aryans were using gold, which was referred as nishk. They also had the knowledge of copper smelting. Now you write. They also had the knowledge of copper smelting, and knowledge of copper smelting, SMELTING, and they created very good quality bronze tools. And then mention further, there was no formal system of taxation. At this time. There was no formal system of taxation at this time, and people voluntarily contributed. voluntarily contributed to the chieftain of the community, to the chieftain of the community, and voluntarily contributed to the chieftain of community, and this voluntary contribution, was known as Bhag and Bali. Was known as Bhag and Bali. Then so now you write a title, Polity during early Vedic age. So polity during early Vedic age. So now listen. So the most important position was the position of the Rajan. Then, so position of the Rajan, and he was the chieftain of the community. Moreover, that Rajan most important work, as we mentioned, that not only that he will be protecting the cattle, but then he will also be organizing the battles to secure large number of cattle. Okay, so this was the main endeavor of fighting with the other people, that they will be fighting with the other people and then they will be securing a large number of cattle from them. Moreover, in his political functions, Rajan was assisted by three political assemblies. Then, and these three political assemblies are known as Sabha, Samiti, and Vidhat. So Sabha, Samiti, and Vidhat were three political assemblies which assisted Rajan. Now out of this, the first one, what we have mentioned, Sabha. Sabha used to be most important, and then these were the next important assemblies. So who are the part of the Sabha? So Sabha was an exclusive assembly. Then, so it was an exclusive assembly. What does does the term exclusive refers to? More number of people or less number of people? Less number of people. So in this less number of people were there, but at the same point of time, it included both females and males into assembly. Then, so meaning that even the females are also having the same rights as the males. Then, so women were also the part of this assembly, but then who are these men and women in this assembly? So basically, the men and women of this assembly were the elders of the society. Okay? So elders of the society, it was the most important assembly, most decisive assembly, and majority of the political decisions were taken in connivance with this particular assembly. Now, on the other hand, Samiti. So, Samiti was an inclusive assembly. So, here, inclusiveness is not in the terms of gender. Then, it is not in the terms of sex, but it is in the terms of numbers. Then, so more number of people were the part of Samiti, and moreover, what was the most important work of this particular Samiti? So, Samiti was not created all the time, it was not functioning all the time. Its main function was appointment of Rajan. Okay? But understand, this appointment is among the members of the Aryan society also, itself, and members of a, suppose somebody is a Rajan, okay? So their sons, suppose 3-4 sons are there, so they will have to choose from that family itself, okay? So its most important work was related to the appointment of Rajan. Then what is a Vidhat? So its exact work is not clear in the Rigved, but then exact function is not clear, but then what is the derived function that we get from the Vidhat? So first of all, both male and female are part of it. Then, and it was, so it is often referred in religious matters, okay, this assembly, meaning that it seems that this Vidhat was related to the religious decision and also decisions associated with the agriculture, okay. So these two places, their role is mentioned, and both males and females are part of it. So लिखो इसको. Rajan was the most important Rajan was the most important person of the person was the most important person and chieftain of Aryan community and chieftain of Aryan community. Then mention chieftain of Aryan community. Full stop. His most important work was to organize battle to secure large number of cattle then mention he was also entrusted with the task of protecting the cattle then moreover in his political function he was assisted by many political assemblies like Sabha, Samiti and Vidhat. Sabha, Samiti and Vidhat. Sabha, Samiti and Vidhat. Then write separately Sabha. Write a title Sabha. It was the most important assembly. It was the most important assembly but exclusive in nature. Full stop. Then you write. It mainly included both male and female elders of the society. Male and female elders of the society. Full stop. Then you write after it Samiti as a title, and then you write it was an inclusive assembly. Or in other words, it included large number of people. But females were not the member of this assembly. Then after full stop, you mention females were not the member of this assembly. Full stop. Its main work was appointment of Rajan. Then you write the last one, Vidhat. And Vidhat mein likho. It was a limited assembly, but included but included both male and females. Both male and females. Full stop. Its exact function, its exact function is not known. Its exact function is not known, but but it was involved in the decisions related to it was involved in the decisions related to agriculture and religious affair. It was involved in the decisions related to agriculture and religious affairs. Agriculture and religious affairs. That's it. So this is about these three assemblies. Now there is a one very important discussion from this phase that we are going to mention, and that is the Dasarajan War. So just write a subtitle within the polity, and the subtitle is Dasarajan War. So mention Dasarajan War. So now listen. When it comes to Dasarajan War, so as it refers, das matlab 10. So how it unfolded? So as we mentioned that Aryans were not belonging to one community. There were many different tribes and they have not arrived in India in one go. They have arrived in many batches. Then, so over the period, what has happened by 1050 BC, okay? Meaning that last leg of this particular early Vedic period. So the most important Aryan tribe in India, most powerful Aryan tribe in India was Bharat tribe. Okay? So Bharat tribe, and around in the 11th century BCE, it was ruled by Sudas. Okay? So it was ruled by Sudas. He was preceded by his father Devodas. Now, so when Sudas has come to power, one of the very important position in the society was the appointment of the head priest. Okay? So head priest. At this point of time, he had two options, or he has to choose between the two people for the position of the head priest. One was the Vasishtha, and second was Vishwamitra. So Vishwamitra. Now, as far as the importance of the Vishwamitra is concerned, it is said that the Gayatri mantra that you recite was composed by the Vishwamitra. Then in the praise of the Savitri and sun god. So Vishwamitra was high, there was very important at this time, but then Vasishtha, okay? So as far as the story of the Vasishtha is concerned, that he was considered as the most intelligent person in the society by this time, and at the same point of time his birth is also considered as divine. So all of you must be knowing about the Pushkar Lake, right? So Pushkar Lake, in fact, it is said that Pushkar Lake was created by in Rajasthan, closer to Ajmer, then I think closer to Ajmer. So it was created by the Lord Brahma, and then as per the story that even the Vasishtha also appeared in the lake of the Pushkar, okay? And miraculously. So his birth story is also different, and then he is considered to be the, as per the mythology, that he is considered as the part of the many gods. Then, so Vasishtha was highly intelligent person, and at the same point of time, Sudas favored him. Then, so Sudas appointed Vasishtha as the head priest. Now Vishwamitra, who held a very high position in the society during the time of his father Devodas, then now he felt humiliated, and he decided that he will be teaching a lesson to the Sudas. Now Vishwamitra, what he has done, that he has persuaded 10 kings, then, and out of these 10 kings, 5 are Aryan kings and 5 are non-Aryan kings. Okay? So he persuaded 5 Aryan and 5 non-Aryan kings to fight with Sudas. Now this historic battle is going to happen on the banks of river Ravi. But Ravi was known as Parushni. So this historic battle happened on the banks of river Parushni, and in this battle, Sudas defeated Dasarajan. Then So Sudas defeated Dasrajan, and then after he captured their areas. The areas of these 10 kings, okay, which was captured, now it was the area was renamed after the clan of the Sudas, that is Bharat. So the area came to be known as Bharat Varsh. So this is the story which is mentioned at this time. So the story of the naming of this country, Bharat Varsh. Then people do ask that what happened to Vishwamitra. So humiliated Vishwamitra since he was defeated also. So now what he has done, that Vishwamitra has descended to the forests of the Deccan. Okay? So he descended to the forest of the Deccan, never to return back in this particular part of the country. So this is what is the story which is mentioned, but there is a usage of this particular information later on in the society. So likho isko mention, you write. So start with that Bharat clan, Bharat clan of Aryans, Bharat clan of Aryans was the most powerful. Bharat clan of Aryans was the most powerful Aryan community in India. Was the most powerful Aryan community in India. Then mention after it. One of its very powerful ruler was Divodas. Divodas. Then mention. After the death of Divodas, his son Sudas was appointed. His son Sudas was appointed as the next. Sudas was appointed as the next Rajan. As the next Rajan. Full stop. Sudas had to take a very important decision. Sudas had to take a very important decision. That is appointment of head priest. Appointment of head priest. Full stop. He appointed Vasisht. He appointed Vasisht as the head priest. He appointed Vasisht as the head priest and overlooked the claim of Vishwamitra. Overlooked the claim of Vishwamitra. Overlooked the claim of Vishwamitra. Then mention. Overlooked the claim of Vishwamitra, full stop. Humiliated Vishwamitra. Humiliated Vishwamitra. Persuaded 10 kings. Humiliated Vishwamitra. Persuaded 10 kings. Persuaded 10 kings to fight with. Persuaded 10 kings to fight with Sudas. To fight with Sudas. Full stop. As such, the historic battle was fought. Historic battle was fought on the banks of river Parushni. On the banks of river Parushni. Parushni. Full stop. In this battle, Sudas comfortably defeated comfortably defeated Dasarajan. Sudas comfortably defeated Dasarajan. Then mention. He annexed their areas. He annexed their areas. Their areas and he annexed their areas and named it after his clan. Named it after his clan, that is Bharatvarsh. Anyways, we were writing ना, तो वैसे भी complete हो चुका था. On Bharatvarsh, there was a blackout. कोई नहीं, फोटो खींच रही है तुम्हारी. टाइटल लिख लो. मेंशन. We have done economy and polity. So now write society during early Vedic age. Society during early Vedic age. So listen, that meanwhile it will start functioning. So as far as the society is concerned, its internet is working, na? Anju, is it working? रुकना पड़ेगा. So now listen. So when it comes to society, so society was organized on the 3 lines, okay? And the most important was the family itself. Then, so the units in the society, that the most important unit was Kul. Kul means family, okay? So Kul was family. It was the most important unit, and moreover, Kul was headed by Kulapa. So Kulapa used to be the eldest male member of the family. Okay? So he was eldest male member of the family, and then after that there's Kul and Kulapa. The next part, so society was organized on this line: Kul, Jana, okay, and Vans. So that Kula, Jana, Jan means people, and then Vans is the clan, and so as the gram. So even the word that we used in Hindi, gram, which is referring to village, so that is there from this time only. So society was organized. Jan means generally people, okay, and which people? The Aryan people. And then clan is there. Vans is the clan to which they are belonging, and gram is the entire tribal community. So entire a particular tribal community or particular Aryan community. Then, but the most important unit in the society was the family itself, and family was referred as the Kul, and Kul was headed by Kulapa, who was the eldest male member of the society. Now this word itself, it indicates that society was patriarchal in nature, right? So society was patriarchal in nature, and moreover, not only society is patriarchal, but that does not mean that women are not accorded respect in the society. In fact, early Vedic society was much more equal than the phase which is going to follow early Vedic age. So women were accorded respect in the society. Okay? In fact, they enjoyed many types of the right. So for example, when we talk about so rights of the women, then so rights of the women, they enjoyed political rights. They enjoyed political rights, and what are the examples of the political right? They were member of the Sabha and Vidhat. They were members of Sabha and Vidhat, so they are enjoying the political rights. Then, in fact, membership in the Sabha is most important because it was the most decisive assembly. All the important decisions were taken by the Sabha. So women has equal participation in that. Then apart from it, educational discourses. Okay? So educational discourses were also open to women. Like the men, women were also allowed to participate in the educational discourse, and one of the very best example at this point of time in the early Vedic age is the example of the Lopamudra. Then, so Lopamudra, she was wife of the Agastya Rishi, and then she is referred in many such intellectual discussions of that time, and she was having a very good education at that time. So that is one part. Then so they enjoyed political rights, they enjoyed educational rights. What about the child marriage? So there were no instances of the child marriage in this age. Then so no instances of the child marriage in this age. Moreover, marriage right is most important. So marriage right is not just that, not just the child marriage, but then other things also. So the question rises that uh, what that was the marriage of the choice allowed in the society? Suppose that if the girl is choosing somebody to get married, so was it allowed? So answer is yes. Then so under Gandharva Vivaha Vyavastha, Gandharva Vivaha Vyavastha, love marriage was allowed. Okay, so for both it is that for both male and female, that if they are choosing somebody, so then it was allowed. Only condition was they must be belonging to the same community. Okay, so within community only they can choose anybody. Moreover, not only Gandharva Vivaha but Swamvar Vivaha was also very much in the vogue then. So what is Swamvar? So it is a kind of a superior right to the girl, that girl will be choosing her husband then, but then from the chosen people. Okay, so from the chosen people, and it must be based on some sort of terms and conditions which are defined by the Rajan. Then so this is one part. Then what about the widow remarriage in the society? Was it allowed? Yes. So early Vedic society was much more equalitarian or much better than the society which is going to follow later on. So widow remarriage was allowed under Niyog Vivaha. Then, so Niyog Vivaha. Now, so what is this Niyog Vivaha? Understand that if the woman's husband has died, so then she can marry the younger brother, not the elder brother. Take care. She can marry the younger brother of the dead husband. Take care. Moreover, it was also said that she must conclude the marriage if she is not blessed with any son. But if she is blessed with a son from the first marriage, so then she can take a decision not to marry. Okay? So not to marry. So this is what was the Niyog Viva, meaning that there is somebody to take care of her in her old time if she has a son. Then, but if she is not blessed with the son from the first marriage, so then she must get married to the younger brothers, okay? Not the elder ones. So this is there. So this was in the Niyog Vivaha Vyavastha. Then there is another discussion on the slavery where we will have a reference back to the Dasrajan war. So write little bit. Society was organized on the line of Kul, Vish, VIS, Kula, Vish, Jan, Vans, Kula, Vish, Jan. Jan is actually referred as Gram. Okay? So Jan and Gram are both the same. So Kul ka meaning likho. Kul is family. Kul is family. Vis is immediate neighborhood. Vis is immediate neighborhood. Then Vans is clan. And Jan or Gram is Aryan community. Jan or Gram is Aryan community. Then further you write after it Aryan community, full stop. Then Kul was the most important unit. Kul was the most important unit in the society. Kul was the most important unit in the society. And it was headed by Kulapa. It was headed by Kulapa. the eldest male member of the family. It was headed by Kulapa, the eldest male member of the family. Male member of the family. Mention. Though society was patriarchal in nature, though society was patriarchal in nature, but women were accorded women were accorded very high respect in the society. Very high respect in the society. Women were accorded ACCORDED very high respect in the society. Right? Mention. They enjoyed political rights. They enjoyed political rights as they were members of political assemblies like Sabha, as they were members of political assemblies like Sabha and Vidhat. Sabha and Vidhat. Then mention. Women also enjoyed educational rights, and they were allowed to participate and they were allowed to participate in educational discourses. They were allowed to participate in educational discourses. Educational discourses. Full stop. Then mention. One of the best example was Lop Mudra. It's written over here actually. Lop Mudra, wife of Agastya Rishi. She was regarded as one of the renowned intellectual. She was regarded as one of the renowned intellectual of this time. Renowned intellectual of this time. Done? Then after it, renowned intellectual of this time, full stop. Then mention about the marriage rights. Separately, you can mention marriage rights. So you mention. There was no instance of child marriage from the early Vedic age. No instance of child marriage from the early Vedic age. Then mention. Love marriage was allowed under Gandharva Vivaha. Love marriage was allowed under Gandharva Vivaha. And Gandharva Vivaha, brackets में लिखो, from same community. In the same community. And but then there were exceptions also. Okay. Now I just want to, in marriage part, we'll ask a question. So Now the polygamy is also one of the feature. And then we also often we talk about the society, we talk on polygamy, polyandry, okay? So what was allowed in the society out of the two, polygamy or polyandry? Polyandry. Polygamy was allowed in the society, okay? So polygamy was allowed, but polyandry, if it happens, it was not frowned upon. What does it mean? That it is not a normal phenomenon, but if it has happened, so it was acceptable in the exceptional situations, okay? So in the exceptional situations, polyandry was also accepted. The best example, okay? So now from here onwards, we will quote time and again Mahabharata. Then so in Mahabharata, as you know, that who is the best example of the polyandry? Draupadi. Okay? So Draupadi. And as you know, that it's an interesting story. You all know that how Draupadi became wife of the everybody. Then that all the five brothers, because they were bringing everything and they were asking the permission of the mother to show her, and mother was like that, you must distribute among yourselves. Then, but then as per the story which is there in the Mahabharata, that how Draupadi got five husbands, because she was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and then she was worshipping Lord Shiva, or Somvar ke 16 vrat, then so she was doing that stuff just to get a best husband. And when the Lord Shiva appeared, so then her wish was that she must get the smartest person, most handsome person, then best Dhanurdhar, best Gadadhar, Satyavadi, all the characters he wanted. And Lord Shiva was confused that ki ek aadmi mein to hoga nahi. So then he granted her wish, then, but then finally what happens? He got married to the five people. Acha, I will also tell you one thing, that it's an irony in the society that Draupadi's life, there would not have been Draupadi, so there is nothing in the Mahabharata. Then it's just because of the Draupadi there was Mahabharata. Then, and moreover, Draupadi's anger is often mentioned, and at the same point of time, Draupadi is that one such mirror to the society. But irony is that the way she has faced her life, or her ordeal in this particular epic, she does not become so inspirational. The reason is that when you look at the society, okay, look at the mainstream society, hardly there are the families or people who will be keeping the name of their daughter as Draupadi, except the President of India. And but then have you heard? Tell me in your nearest community, okay, have you heard any girl named as Draupadi? And the belief, that the kind of deviated belief which got in the society was that if you keep the name of your daughter as Draupadi, तो घर में सिर्फ झगड़े होंगे. As if आजकल झगड़े ही नहीं होते हैं. इतनी शांत society है, ठीक है? So anyways, let's come back to this part. So Draupadi was the example of the exceptional polyandry. Polygamy was there in the society, as you can see that in Mahabharata, as is mentioned, that Pandu, the father of the Pandavas, he was married to two ladies, that Madri and Kunti. Okay? So similarly, many kings and everyone was married to many people. Moreover, the story of the Shantanu. So Shantanu was married to a lady from the other community. So this is also exceptional situation. So though generally the marriage in the same community is promoted, but then if in exceptional cases marriage outside the community happens, so there was no such a hard punishment in the society that people will be excluded from the society. So early Vedic society was much more open than the later Vedic society, and so as the society which followed after the end of the Vedas. Then, so mention करो इसको. Child marriage लिख लिया. So child marriage you have written. No instance of child marriage was noted down. Then you write polygamy. Polygamy was practiced in the society. Polygamy was practiced in the society. But in exceptional circumstances, polyandry was also accepted. Polyandry was also accepted. Then mention after it. Widow remarriage was allowed under Niyog Vivaha. was allowed under Niyog Vivaha. It's written on board. Then mention. Likho. Under this system, under this system, widows were allowed to marry younger brother of dead husband, if she is not blessed, with a son. If she is not blessed with a son. Then, so that is one. Then apart from it, marriage ke baad, so let's go into the discussion of the slavery. Then, so institution of the slavery in the society. So slavery was rampant in the society. It was practiced. Okay? So it was practiced, and who were becoming slaves? So listen, the defeated, not just non-Aryans, okay? The defeated people in the war were made slaves. Okay? So the defeated people in the war were made slaves, but then on the basis of their lineage, there were two types of the slave. Then, so the two types of the slaves were, so one is the Aryans who are defeated, and one is the non-Aryans who are defeated. So Aryan and non-Aryan. Then, moreover, the Aryan defeated Aryans were known as Das, and defeated non-Aryans were known as Dasyu. Okay? So out of these two, Das and Dasyu, the most discriminated, then exploited, were the Dasyus. In fact, Rigved mentions that mass killing of the non-Aryans in the term Dasyu Hatya. Okay? So many a times that there was a mass killing of the Dasyu, which was mentioned as a Dasyu Hatya. Now I'll go back to the story of the war that we mentioned then. So now let's have a look at the, just give me 1 minute. So the war where we have mentioned Dasarajan war. So now in Dasarajan war, out of these 10 Aryan kings, think, these 10 Aryan kings, 5 Aryans and 5 non-Aryans. So they will become Das, and these will become Dasyu. Moreover, in this, there was a very powerful tribe, Aryan tribe, and name of the tribe was Puru. Okay? So name of the tribe was Puru. Now what happened? That it is the fight between the Bharat and Puru. So Bharat and Puru, they decided that they will go into matrimonial alliance. Then, so there was a matrimonial alliance between Bharat and Puru. They were given some favorable treatment, and the most favorable treatment was given to the Puru. So the matrimonial alliance happened between them, and after this matrimonial alliance, the progeny of this particular Puru and Bharat, they came to be known as Kuru. Okay? So they came to be known as Kuru, and the area which they occupied was known as Kurukshetra. Okay? So Kurukshetra. And then after, from the Kurukshetra, the development of the Hastinapur has happened. Okay? And after the Hastinapur, Indraprastha is also becoming the part of their territory. What is Indraprastha? Delhi. Okay? Oldest name of the Delhi. So this is how. And this particular progeny is the one which is the Bharat progeny. So then the word that you listen to, Mahabharat, what is the meaning of this word Mahabharat? Is it Great Bharat? No, it is not Great Bharat. The meaning of the word Mahabharat, clash of the Bharat clan. Okay? So Maha here means fight. Okay? And clash of the Bharat clan. So as far as these two epics are concerned, Ramayana and Mahabharata, that Ramayana generally people refer it as a mythological, but there is a historical basis of the Mahabharata. Those things which are mentioned in the Mahabharata, they are the part of the Vedic text also. So now, later on what has happened, that from this progeny, okay, after many generations, then So with the Kuru, who all are emerging, so there are two important Kurus and their names are after some point of time. One is Dhritarashtra and another is the Pandu. Okay? So Dhritarashtra and Pandu. So Dhritarashtra, I'm not writing all of it. And sons of Dhritarashtra, they came to be known as Kauravas. Then, and sons of Pandu, they came to be known as Pandavas. But both of them are Kuru. Both of them are Kuru and both of them are progeny of the Bharat clan. And then the fight part, you already know that when the fight happened, so then that fight is, so fight between the Kauravas and the Pandavas is referred as Mahabharat. And this is the fight which is called as the clash of the Bharat clan. So both belonging to the Bharat clan. Moreover, Kaurava story, I hope you know, that they were not born in same form, but actually how it happened, that actually Gandhari has given a birth to the loath of the flesh, and then it was not a child. So then that is the time when 100 parts are created from it, and moreover 100 parts in 100 different pots are kept, and that's how the incubation has happened. And with the incubation, 100 childs of the Gandhari have emerged. Then, and the eldest one is the Duryodhan, okay? And rest of them are just for the namesake. And there was one daughter actually. So this is how. So this is how the story is there. So now, even if one can that kind of that laugh at this particular thing, that ki how come there's 100 Lothov thing. But if you just compare it, the modern technology of the test tube baby and then other things. So the concept wise, the formulation is already there. The execution must not be there then, but the concept wise, and any such big invention to happen, the ideas must be there then. So these ideas must have been inspiration to the scientific community to think on this line and then do the things accordingly. So this is what is the part of this particular story. So Das and Dasyu. Das were the defeated Aryans. They were given, though they are slaves, but they were many a times they were given favorable position, and one of the favorable position was given to Puru. And Dasyus were highly discriminated. Many a times their massacre was also happening, which was referred as Dasyu Hatya in Rigved. So mention, slavery was practiced rampantly. Slavery was practiced rampantly in the society. Rampantly in the society. Then mention after it, rampantly in the society. There were two types of slaves. There were two types of slaves in the society. Two types of slave in the society. Then mention after it. The defeated Aryans were known as Das. The defeated Aryans were known as Das. They were less discriminated. They were less discriminated. And many a times, they were given favorable position. Many a times they were given favorable position in the court. Favorable position in the court. Then, on the other hand, defeated non-Aryans were referred as Dasyu. They were highly discriminated. And many a times there was mass killing. Many a times there was mass killing of Dasyus. There was mass killing of Dasyus. Then mass killings of Dasyus. Then mention, which is mentioned as Dasyu Hatya in Rigved. Which is mentioned as Dasyu Hatya in Rigved. Dasyu Hatya in Rigved. Then, so this is what is about the society part. Okay? Let's move to the religious practices during this period. So after religious practices, you can take the break. Abhi isko complete kar lo, and then after we'll start with the, so mention religious practices. During EVP, early Vedic period. So listen, so when it comes to religious practices during early Vedic period, so as far as when you read in your, that some many of you might be having socio as an optional, philosophy as an optional. So when you study religion, so there you study the emergence of the religion, how it happens. Take care. The first, it must be associated with the terror of the nature. Take care. What is terror of the nature? Lightning, earthquake, take a tsunami, and these all. Then, so different phenomena, people are fearful. Then there is a terror of the fear, spirit also. So this is how the beginning of the religion happens on a kind of a scientific basis, that this discussion. So then it moves on to the worship of the nature. The first element in evolution of any such a religion is the worship of the nature. So here also the Rigvedic religion was more associated with the nature. Then, but what they have done, that they are doing the nature worship, but they have done the personification of the nature. What do I mean by this? Personification meaning that suppose there is an element of nature. So let's take an example, rain. Then, so now they are saying that there is a god of the rain. Then, and that god of the rain is responsible for rain. Getting it? So meaning there is a person who is the god of the rain, and according to his wishes, rain is happening. So this is what we are calling personification of the nature. And as such, they came up with many gods, personified gods like Indra, Agni, okay? Then Varun, then Mitra, then many other. Okay? So many other we'll mentioning about them. So they were associated with a specific aspect of the nature. So let's talk about them. The most important god was the Indra. Then Indra was considered as the god of the rain and the thunder. He is referred in the Rigved more than 250 times. So the name Indra has been mentioned more than 250 times in Rigved. In Rigved, he is also referred as Purandhar. And the meaning of the word Purandhar is the breaker of the forts. Then the second god who is mentioned in the Rigved is Agni. Then, so Agni is mentioned more than 200 times in the Rigved. And Agni was considered as god of fire, but he is intermediary god. So let's have a discussion on the intermediary god. Who that? What do we mean by intermediary god? Any idea? Intermediary, yeah, please. Yes. So what he's saying, that suppose you want to, even in today's time also, in Hinduism, particularly in many religions, then that Agni is the intermediary god. Even in many of the European that practices in the old times, Agni was the intermediary god. So what is that? Suppose that if you want to worship Lord Shiva, so you do the worship of the Lord Shiva through Agni actually. Okay? So first you do the worship of the Agni, and that's how you are doing the worship to the Lord Shiva. So whatever your message be, whatever your wish, whatever your will, then that's all transmitted to the other gods through the Agni. Okay? So it's just like a messenger god. You can say messenger god. But even the Agni worship is also interesting. That Agni worship is also done through somebody else. You know, Agni worship is done through his wife, Swaha. Have you heard about it? When you perform a havan, so what you say? When you put little bit of ghee, so you say swaha. So it is said that if you do not take the name of the wife of the Agni, he will not listen. So that's why. So Swaha is the name. So this is how it all starts. So you will have to take the name of the Swaha. That's how Agni will start listening to you. And then after it, then it is the fumes and everything which is there. It is transmitted to the heavens, to the celestials, and so as the message is transmitted. So for example, that those practices of incense stick, camphor, and then many fire practices in the Hinduism is all about the conveying the message to the God whom you intend to. Okay? So Agni was the intermediary god. Then comes the next god, Varuna. Then who is Varun? Which element of the nature? Water. He is god of water. Then so Varun is not the wind or air. He is god of water. Then and moreover, that early Aryans believed that the entire planet Earth, okay, it is more covered with the water. If there is a change in any of the balance of the water, so the entire Earth will be not existing. So they wanted this equilibrium of the water. Then so Varun was the deity of the water. Then comes the Mitra, or later on Mitra became Marut. Okay? So Mitra was basically the god of the wind. Okay? So god of the wind. But apart from it, there is a concept of the god Pushand. Pushand was the god of the animals. So Pushand was generally, later times, Pushand started to be referred as the Lord Shiva, who is the lord of the animals. There were female deities also who were worshipped. We will write their names. First, you write this much. So mention in this phase, in this phase, in this phase, the early Aryans personified the elements of nature, personified the elements of nature into God. Elements of nature into God. Then mention. Indra was the most important divinity. Indra was the most important divinity regarded as god of rain and thunder. Regarded as god of rain and thunder. Then mention. In Rigved, in Rigved, he was quoted more than, in Rigved, he was quoted more than 250 times. He was quoted more than 250 times. Then mention. The second important divinity was Agni. Agni, god of fire. God of fire. Then mention after it. He was regarded as an intermediary god. He was regarded as an intermediary god. God, and referred more than 200 times in Rigved. More than 200 times in Rigved. Then mention Varun, god of water. God of water was the third important divinity. Was the third important divinity, followed by Mitra or Marut, god of air, god of wind or air. Then mention further. Mitra, god of air. Pushand was god of animals. God of animals. God of animals. Apart from these gods, apart from these gods, worship of worship of worship of the sun was also worship of the sun was also highly prevalent. Was also highly prevalent. Full stop. Female divinities, female divinities were also worshipped. Female divinities were also worshipped, like, so mention Aditi, Savitri, Aditi, Savitri, Usha, Nisha, Ila. So these 5 names you write. Aditi, Savitri, Usha, Nisha, Ila. Done? Then now listen. So this is just part of the mention of the gods. But then what was the way of the worshipping and the purpose of the worship? So mode of worship and the purpose of the objective of the worship. So as far as the mode of worship is concerned, so mode of worship was through prayers, okay? Prayers and recitation of the mantra and psalms. So how we write psalms? Psalm apostrophe S. So recitation of mantra and psalms. Moreover, Vedic rituals were also performed, and these rituals included animal sacrifices also. Okay? So rituals with animal sacrifices were also adopted. So these are the methods. But then what is objective? So the objective of the worship in the initial times, in the early Vedic period, was only material gain. Okay? So material growth, material gain, but it was not at all associated with the spiritual growth. Okay? So mention the method of worship. The method of worship was through prayer, and recitation of prayer, recitation of mantra and psalms. Psalms spelling I have written. Mantra and psalms. Done. Animal sacrifices were also performed. Animal sacrifices were also performed as the part of Vedic ritual. Animal sacrifices were also performed as the part of Vedic rituals. Vedic rituals. Full stop. The main objective of the worship, was material growth, and development of highly powerful society, and also to get Suvira. What is Suvira? Brave son. Also to get Suvira. Brave son. Then full stop के बाद लिखो. Spiritual growth was not the objective of the worship. Spiritual growth was not the objective of the worship in this period. Spiritual growth was not the objective of the worship in this period. So now listen. So this is what is about the early Vedic period. Now we are done with the early Vedic period. We'll start with the later Vedic period. Then, so later Vedic period will start. Pucho, question. 250, 250, more than 250. एग्जैक्ट भी बता देता हूँ, ठीक है. सो मोर देन 250 टाइम्स was इंद्र. 203, more than 200 times exactly, which is मतलब अभी तक जो calculated है, that is around 216 for the Agni. Then Varun is more than 150, and then Mitra is mentioned 126 times. जरूरत नहीं है इसकी, ठीक है, just सुन लो. So 126 times, and rest of the god they are under 100. ठीक है, चलो. So break ले लो, and break के बाद we'll start with the later Vedic period. So listen, that later Vedic period. So we say that around 1000 BC, later Vedic period started. But then, why this abrupt date is to be chosen as the beginning of the later Vedic age? So there is a one discovery which has led to the beginning of this later Vedic age, and that discovery is basically iron. Okay? So for the first time in the world, it's a big statement that first time in the world iron was discovered. Then, so iron was discovered, and iron was a transformational metal. The reason is that when we talk about the earlier periods in the world history, so copper was the first metal known to humanity, and with the copper, the tools which were created, they were highly malleable and flexible. Okay? Moreover, copper cannot be sharpened beyond a point. But iron is the hard nature of the metal. Okay? Then it is malleable, but at the same point of time, the sharpest tool can be created from the iron. So for example, in today's humanity, the sharpest tool is the surgical knife with which the operation of the people happens, the surgery happens. Then, and just a touch is enough to cut your entire stomach. Then, so that just a touch is enough. And then, how it is created? So these all have the elements of the iron. Okay? Now doctors must be knowing better about it. But then, if there would not have been iron, so then the sharpest of the metals would not have been created. Then, so iron, what it did, that it proved to be highly transformational, and then it further led to the movement of the Aryans into the different areas of the India. So initially, the Aryans' location was just in this particular part of country. So this is the area in which they were occupying the first phase. In the first phase, this is the area. This was occupied by them. But then, in the later Vedic age, entry will happen to the eastern India, so as to the central India, and from central India to southern India. Then, so this is how the beginning will be made. Now, what is this beginning? So this entire stretch of the eastern India, first of all, it was heavily forested, and this is the Gangetic Valley. So Ganga Yamuna Valley or Gangetic Valley. Then this Gangetic Valley was heavily forested. Very fertile soil was there, so heavily forested. With the use of this iron tool, they started to clear the upper Gangetic forest. Then, so upper Gangetic forest, and then after slowly they have entered into the eastern part of India. So expansion of the Aryan community is happening in the different parts. Then, now the question is that from where they found this iron, so they found it from. So generally what happens, that general perception is, it's very unusual to say that Western UP had one of the abode of the iron, because we don't have any now in these days. So only thing that in the name of the metal, we only get to know about the bronze manufacturing factories in the Muradabad, which is considered as the hub of the bronze manufacturing, but there is no trace of iron in this area. So as as far as any metal or any such kind of rare earth mineral or anything is concerned, so some of the radioactive materials can be traced to the Saharanpur, then, but not in any other thing. So uh, originally the hub of the iron is the Chota Nagpur plateau, then Kudremukh of Karnataka, then, and so as the Kudremukh range, which is going till the Goa. So now iron was discovered from two places. Initially there was a reserve of the iron in this area, and the area was known as Jakhira, and so Jakhira and one more place, that, which one? Atranji Kheda, yes. So Atranji Kheda and Jakhera, these were the places from where it was found, and these areas were between Muradabad, Meerut and Bareilly. So the stretch of this, so with this particular iron, they have created a very sharp quality tool. They have cleared the forest and they have entered into the rest of the parts of India. Moreover, they have given in the later Vedic text. So earlier we have mentioned early Vedic. Now we are going to mention later Vedic text. So in the later Vedic text, which all things are there? So it will include, so later Vedic period, it will include Samved, then what else? Yajurved and Atharvaved. Okay? So Sam, Yajur and Atharvaved. But now understand, even I am referring parts of Rigved as a later Vedic text also. So with a star mark. Why so? So parts of Rigved are also later Vedic. Now understand, later on when in art and culture you study about language literature, and then we elaborately talk about all the Vedas. So there, when we are talking about the Rigved, so we mentioned about the entire periodicity of the Rigved. Overall, Rigved has 10 chapters. These chapters are referred as mandal. Then, so 10 mandals. Rigved has 10 mandals. Out of the 10 mandals, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So mandal number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they were composed in the early Vedic age. Then the rest of the mandals, mandal number 1, 8, 9 and 10, they were composed in the later Vedic period. Okay? So some parts of the Rigved is later Vedic also, and major part is the early Vedic. So in these all texts, this area, okay, eastern part was referred as Purva Khand. Okay? Purva Khand. Then central India was referred as Madhya Desh. Madhya Desh. What about southern India? Dakshina Panth. Dakshina Panth. And North India? So North India was given, North and Northwestern India were given 2 names, and these names are, so I'll write, just give me 1 minute. Brahmavart, and the one which is very popular, Aryavart. Okay, so it was called as Brahmavart or Aryavart. So these are the names which are mentioned in the later Vedic text about the different parts of India. Then 2 additional rivers, though that Ganga and Yamuna were not quite mentioned in the early Vedic period, but in the later Vedic period they are mentioned. So there is a mention of the Ganga and Yamuna with the same names, but then the river which was often mentioned in the later Vedic period was Gandak. Then, so Gandak was mentioned as Sadanira. Sadanira, and so as you know, how many of you know the location of the Gandak? I think all of you have studied. So all these batches I think done with the geography. नहीं, कौन से batch में नहीं हुआ है? 7 में? Still going on. But अच्छा, तो you are waiting for that कि यहाँ classes में खत्म हो जाएगा तो exam दोगे? अपने मन से तो पढ़ना नहीं है. So have you seen this particular geography NCERT class 11 fundamentals of physical geography? ठीक है? उसमें in the landforms and in that particular topic, the meandering of the river is mentioned. The image which is there, meandering tendency, that is Gandak only. It is the one river which is known for very high meandering. No other river is equally having the same tendency like the Gandak. Then, so this particular river has been mentioned in number of the time in the later Vedic text. So एक बार लिखो इसको. And the Parvat. Now listen. So the eastern part of the Himalayas are also mentioned. Okay? And these eastern part of Himalayas, एक बार ध्यान से समझना, was mentioned as Mujvant. Then, so Mujvant. Now, Mujvant. So basically, in the modern time, we derived this name. Okay? That the modern historians and everyone say that they have named this area as the Mujvant because of a plant which was growing in this area. And what is the name of the plant? Mooj. Okay? Not everyone in this class must have seen, but mooj is a grass. Then it's a grass which grows very high and it is used for making basketry. Okay? So particularly in Bihar, Eastern UP, Bengal, even in Northeast India, mooj is used for making the basketry. Basketry, you understand? Different kind of baskets to be used in the houses. Another thing, that there used to be a specific type of the mooj plant which was used for creating the som drink. Okay? Som is what? The intoxicating drink of that time. So that's how they have named, and those plants were growing in the eastern part of the India. So mention, you write. So later Vedic period as a title, and then you write around 1000 BC, around 1000 BC, iron was discovered from places like Atranjikhera and Jakhira from western UP. सब कुछ बोर्ड पे लिखा है. If spelling का कोई issue है तो you can see. ठीक है? Atranjikhera and Jakhira. Then mention. You write. With iron, they created very good quality. With iron, they created very good quality and very sharp tools. Very sharp tools. Full stop. With these tools, the dense forest of Upper Gangetic Plain, the dense forest of Upper Gangetic Plain was cleared. Dense forest of Upper Gangetic Plain was cleared. And Aryan started to practice agriculture on much regular basis. Practice agriculture on much regular basis. Full stop. Then mention. They further penetrated into eastern part of India, central India, and southern India. Eastern part of India, central India, and southern India. Full stop. These areas were referred as, so अब एक एक करके लिख लो. So chalo, I'm writing it separately, or I think it is very clearly written over here, so you can see. So eastern part you write, these areas were referred as Purvakhand. So eastern part Purvakhand, then central part Madhya Desh, South India Dakshin Panth, Eastern India Purvakhand, then central India Madhya Desh, and then southern India Dakshin Panth, north and northwestern India North and northwestern India, Brahmavat and Aryavat. Brahmavat and Aryavat. It's written here. So mention. Then you write done. Ganga and Yamuna rivers were also mentioned. Ganga and Yamuna rivers were also mentioned in the later Vedic text. In the later Vedic text. Then mention last thing. Gandak River was referred as Sadanira. Was referred as Sadanira. And it was often repeated. And it was often repeated in the later Vedic text. Gandak River was referred as Sadanira and it was often repeated in the later Vedic text. Often repeated in the later Vedic text. That is. So this is what is about the initial information. Okay? Now let's go into their polity, their economy, and then the society and everything. So here in this one, I'll start with the polity. Okay? Economy second place पे रख लेंगे. So let's go into लिख लिया ना all of you. So mention polity during later Vedic period. Polity during later Vedic period. So polity during later Vedic period. Now the position of the Rajan, okay, has become much more important than the previous phase. Then, so position of the Rajan has become much more important, and moreover, his most important work at this point of time was the creation of the Rashtra. Okay? So creation of the Rashtra. So Rashtra is mentioned in the later Vedic text for the first time. And what is Rashtra? So basically it is referring to large territorial area. Okay? So very large territorial area, and it is further emphasizing on the annexation of the new land. Okay? So annexation of the new land. So this is for the first time it has been mentioned in the later Vedic part. Then what about the cattle kind of thing? So cattle is still important then, but then it is not much more important than this activity of the building of the Rashtra. Then apart from it, when we talk about those assemblies which were there in the early Vedic age, they have lost their former relevance. Then, so for example, that Sabha lost its former relevance. Okay? Samiti also lost their former relevance, and Vidhat completely disappeared. Okay? So Vidhat completely disappeared. Moreover, so since these political assemblies are no more relevant at this time, so who is assisting Rajan? Priestly class became much more important at this point of time, and they are the one who are assisting Rajan in many of his endeavors. Then one of the ritual they have started at this point of time, so they further emphasized on the ritual sacrifices. Okay? So ritual sacrifices, and many ritual sacrifices gained importance at this point of time. So these all were initiated by the priestly class. And what are these ritual sacrifices? So these are Rajasuya. Give me 1 minute. So the very first one is called as Rajasuya. Then the number 2 is called as Vajpaya. And the third one is Ashwamedha. So Ashwamedha. So these were the three ritual sacrifices, important ritual sacrifices initiated by the priestly class. Now understand what is the Rajasuya. So all of them, some sort of animal sacrifice is happening. Okay? So the gravity of the animal sacrifice will differ from one ritual to another ritual. So very first one, Rajasuya. So what is Rajasuya? It is basically the coronation ceremony of the king. Okay? So appointment of the king, coronation of the king. So in Hindi, in normal times, today's time, what we call Rajyabhishek. Okay? So it was a kind of a Rajyabhishek. But then this Rajyabhishek or Rajasuya is happening with the blessings of the priestly class. Then it also involves some sort of animal sacrifice and then some sort of charity towards the priestly class. Then, so with their divine blessings, they are appointed. Now the second one is about winning the trust of the people, or that kind of holding some sort of event for the people of that area. And what is this event? So basically in the Vajpayee ceremony, chariot races were organized. Okay? So chariot races were organized, and after the end of this particular, not only animal sacrifice is happening, but also a free feast was given to the people. So free feast, I hope you understand that what is free feast. And so those who have participated, those who have been in the congregation, so all of them have been offered a very lavish feast. Then the most important of these all rituals was the Ashwamedha Yajana. And this is what is associated with the very first thing that we mentioned, Rashtra building. Okay? So Rashtra building. So what is this Ashwamedha Yajana? It is related to the expansion of the kingdom. And how the expansion, so what are the rituals in it? So Ashwamedha Yajana, some details I know that you know. Then all of you are a little bit aware about the Ashwamedha, but how it happens and what are other things. So it starts with bruising of the very healthy horse of the kingdom. The strongest horse of the kingdom has been chosen. Then the chief queen, who is known as Mahisi. Then so the chief queen Mahisi, she will be cutting one of the vein of the horse. Okay? Thoda sa, little bit of incision would be there, so that it is painful for the horse and little bit of blood has oozed out. So then horse will start running with the flag of the kingdom. Okay? So flag of the kingdom. Moreover, that a troop of the army will follow the horse. If the horse enters into another kingdom. So for example, let's suppose that we are saying Ashwamedh kingdom, which has organized the Ashwamedh Yajana. Suppose that after the Ashwamedh Yajana, the horse has entered into the kingdom B. So if the king of this particular area, if he does not capture the horse, so then it means that he has accepted the supremacy of the Ashwamedh king. Then, but if he captures the horse, so it means that he has not accepted, and then there would be a battle between the two. Okay? So there would be a fight between the two. So fight will ensure that, suppose that in fight, if B victorious, so he will take over the Ashwamedh king area. And then he will have to conclude the yajna. Then, so he will have to end the yajna. Then what if? If he has accepted supremacy, so then horse will enter into kingdom C. The same process would be repeated. But then the problem is that generally people feel that it will continue for time immemorial. No. The ceremony must be concluded within 40 days. 40 din ke andar. Then, so within 40 days it must be concluded, not beyond 40 days. And on the last day of ceremony, it could be any day. If the king wants to sacrifice the horse on 35th day, 36th day, but before 40th, then, so on the last day of the ceremony, the horse would be brought back to the kingdom and it will be culled. It will be sacrificed. But this sacrifice was not a very usual one. It was happening along with 21 sterile cows, done, and more than 200 bulls. And so more than 200 bulls. Apart from it, not only this is happening, but a large number of the milking cows were gifted to the priestly class. Okay? So there is a donation event also, that cows, sterile cows, meaning that they cannot milk. Okay? But then those are the, which are the milching cows, they are gifted to the priestly class. So this is the one such practice which has attracted the attention of the progressive section of the society, and those people have gone into the direction of religious reform, and that reform is leading to the emergence of the Buddhism and Jainism. Okay? So mention, you write, the position of Rajan, the position of Rajan became much more important. The position of Rajan became much more important at this time. Much more important at this time. Then mentioned further. Much more important at this time. Now, he needed to organize battle for Rashtra building, for Rashtra building. और ब्रैकेट्स में लिख लो, creation of a sovereign state. Sovereign state. Then mention the early Vedic assemblies, political assemblies. The early Vedic political assemblies, Sabha Samiti. Early Vedic political assemblies, Sabha Samiti, lost their former relevance. Lost their former relevance. And Vidhat completely disappeared. And Vidhat completely disappeared. Full stop. The position of the priestly class, also became very important. The position of priestly class also became very important at this time. Very important at this time. Full stop. Priestly class came up with the ritual sacrifice practices. Priestly class came up with the ritual sacrifice practices. Ritual sacrifice practices. To bless the Rajan. To bless the Rajan with strength and power. With strength and power. Then mention the important rituals are as follows. The important rituals are as follows. So first one, you write Rajasuya. The important rituals are as follows. So Rajasuya, mention, it was coronation of Rajan. It was coronation of Rajan with the divine blessings. Coronation of Rajan with the divine blessings of priestly class. With the divine blessings of priestly class. Number 2, Vajpaya. Then mention Vajpaya, it's written here. So in this ritual sacrifice, mention, likho, in this ritual sacrifice, chariot races were organized. Chariot races were organized. And at the conclusion of the event, At the conclusion of the event, free feast was given. Free feast was given to the participants. To the participants. Then you write Ashwamedh Yajna. So Ashwamedh Yajna. This is the last one. And mention. It was the most important. It was the most important ritual sacrifice. It was the most important ritual sacrifice associated with Rashtra building. Associated with Rashtra building. Then mention associated with the Rashtra building. In this ritual, the strongest horse of the kingdom, was bruised by Chief Queen Mahisi. Bruised by Chief Queen Mahisi, and then it was let loose to venture, and it was let loose to venture into other kingdoms. Let loose to venture into other kingdoms. Then mention. After it you write if horse is not captured by the other kings, if horse is not captured by the other kings, then it meant they have accepted, supremacy of Ashwamedh king. They have accepted supremacy of Ashwamedh king. But if they capture the horse, then they will have to fight. If they capture the horse, then they will have to fight with the Ashwamedh king. Full stop. Ceremony was to be concluded within 40 days. Ceremony was to be concluded within 40 days, and on the last day of ceremony, horse was to be sacrificed. Along with 21 sterile cows, and more than 200 bulls. More than 200 bulls. Full stop. एक last line add करो. Moreover, large number of cattle were donated to the priestly class in this ceremony. Were donated to priestly class in this ceremony. Done. So this is what is about this particular part. Got it? So now let's go into the last one for today's class. We have class tomorrow. कब है? Saturday को. ठीक है, so Saturday. See, one of the most interesting part of the later Vedic period is actually their society. It's a big portion where we have a range of discussions. So range of discussions including the concept of the Gotra and everything. Okay? So we'll do it in the next class. So I'm going with the economy during later Vedic period. Economy during later Vedic period. So now, as it is very clear at this point of time that cattle is no more the most important economic wealth, and the agricultural land has become the most important economic wealth. Okay? So agricultural land is most important. Though the cattle is important, but not the most important. And here, as already we mentioned in the polity, that most important work of the Rajan was the annexation of the land to build the Rashtra. So that is one part. Then when it comes to the other things at this point of time, so since we are mentioning agricultural land, so agricultural commodities are important, and which all agricultural commodities are more important at this time. So not only Godhuma is important. What is Godhuma? Wheat. But Vrihi, rice also emerged as one of the most important thing. And apart from rice, Yav was already there. Then, so Godhuma, Vrihi and Yava. Vrihi is the rice. In fact, from here onwards, rice would be very much part of all the Vedic rituals. In fact, in all the rituals, rice would be given a very important place. Then, so for example, that one of the important thing was Havan, okay, Yajna. And in the Havan process itself, that rice was playing a very important role. So for example, 5 things, 6 things or 7 things are mixed in the Havan material. You must have observed, okay? And it includes the rice. उसके अलावा बताओ, barley would be there. So this yav would also be there. Yav, rice and grass. ठीक है? So grass is, अच्छा, did you wrote that मुजवंत पर्वत वाला part? वो beginning का नहीं लिखा कुछ भी? तो बोलना था ना. I thought that you have already written. So बाद में note करके लिख लेंगे after completing this part. So just listen. The Muj which is referred in this particular later Vedic period, actually grass was representative of the Muj. ठीक है? But then आज के time पे when you are using the different stuff in the Havan, so since it is not easy to find the Muj, so that's how grass is also added into the Havan material. ठीक है? So लिखो इसको that, right? At this point of time, agricultural land became most important economic wealth. And cattle became secondary economic wealth. Then you write after it, the most important work of Rajan was to annex territory for Rashtra building. for Rashtra building. Then you write, paragraph change karo. Apart from Godhuma and Yav, apart from Godhuma and Yav, Vrihi or rice, Vrihi or rice became one of the most important agricultural commodity. Became one of the most important agricultural commodity. That then, so this much we have the discussion. Now listen. So as far as the cattle part already we have mentioned. In economy, the next part is the taxes, the formal system of taxes were not there. Bhag and Bali continued. Now, I just want to know the meaning of these two. I did not define in the very first phase. You did not ask also. So, what is Bhag, what is Bali? अब दो अलग अलग हैं, ठीक है? भाग बताओ. Part of agriculture produce. And Bali? What is it? Land. Yes. Bali is the animal which, suppose I have a cattle. So when the Ashwamedh is happening, any ritual sacrifice is happening. So in that ritual sacrifice, I am giving one of my cattle कि मेरी cattle ले लो, sacrifice कर दो, ठीक है? So this is Bali, ठीक है? So Bali जो हिंदी में word है ना, वह यही बलि है, ठीक है? That the animal which is given as a gift to the chieftain to be sacrificed. Getting it? Then so इस यहीं पे define करो, mention that there was no formal system of taxation. There was no formal system of taxation at this time. There was no formal system of taxation at this time. And Bhag Bali continued. Bhag Bali continued. So Bhag separately likho. You write. A particular part of agricultural produce, given to Rajan. And Bali, you write. The animal wealth given to Rajan during religious ritual sacrifices. Then, so this is about the economy. एक note लिखो, write a note, mention. In note you mentioned the later Vedic text mentions Mujvant Parvat, and in brackets eastern part of Himalayas. Mujvant Parvat, eastern part of Himalayas. And add karo. This name was given on the basis of a specific variety of grass. Commonly known as mooj. Which was abundantly growing in this area. growing in this area. Abundantly growing in this area. Done. It is also believed, likho, it is also believed one of the most important drink of the Vedic age, Som. Som Ras was created from this plant. Som Ras was created from this plant. Then that's it. So this is what is about the economy. अब इस ग्रास से जाके सोमरस मत बनाने लगना. ठीक है. So Saturday we'll be starting with a very, actually that's the crux of, and then the essence of the Vedic age, that the society of the later Vedic period. So we'll have a range of discussions in the society and understanding of many of such rituals of the Hindu society. ठीक है. चलो मिलते हैं Saturday को.